Hello, everyone, and welcome to Everything Iconic with me, Danny Pellegrino. We have a talk show queen, icon, and legend on today, Ricki Lake. Ricki's got a new podcast called Raised by Ricki. I'm so excited. Ricki Lake, how are you doing today?
I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling like it's always fun when the work you do feels really enjoyable and rewarding, and like it all just feels aligned.
Yeah.
I
The
feel
first
good.
episode I listened to, it was so good. And I was raised by Ricki because I'm a 90s kid. And so I remember watching. And so it was just so exciting to hear you talk about the show and looking back at the show. And I know I'm a talk show junkie too. And I know you
Yeah,
said you have Rosie O'Donnell coming on the show. She to me
she's
was
the
the
second
North
episode.
Star. Ugh.
Yeah, yeah. Now what? Now wait. Describe. I agree with you, but I want to know what you mean by that.
What I mean by Rosie was
Her being like your North Star. Like, what was it about her? Why her?
as a pop culture obsessed kid, the way that she would talk to guests as a fan, I feel like
Yes,
was so appealing to me when she would have Barbara on and cry, and when she would have Bette Midler on or Mary Tyler Moore, and
yes,
she had her notebook reading different
yeah,
quotes from the
yes.
show. I mean, I just loved that. I
It
love all
feels
talk shows, but yeah,
it felt really authentic, and,
right.
and I agree with you. I mean, Rosie's been a friend of mine for over 30 years, and she's actually on the second episode. She was kind enough to talk to me on my podcast which was, I didn't at the time, because I've known her for so long and we've been through so much separately, but knowing each other, I didn't really put it together that we both were talk show people in the 90s during that time, and during the time of 9/11, and talking about her experience versus my experience. It was really introspective, and I think you're going to hear her in a way that maybe you haven't heard her before. So I was
So
really
excited.
happy.
You
Yeah.
started your show in 93, and I wondered if you ever felt pressure, because I feel like as an audience member that your show sort of was in the middle of a Jerry Springer and a Rosie. Like, I don't feel like you were maybe as kind of hard as a Jerry Springer but I feel like it was sort of towing the line. Did you ever feel pressure to lean one way or another a little bit more, or how did you sort of
I
balance that?
I don't remember feeling pressure, because what we were doing, first of all, we were like 3 or 4 years before Rosie, and Jerry Springer, he was on the air when we went on the air. Today happens to be the anniversary of us going on the air. Today's 29 years
Wow.
of the launch, So but Jerry was doing a very different, more of a Phil Donahue type of show. So when we came out and doing a show that was relationship driven, wasn't celebrity driven, relationship driven for young people, it was from their vantage point, their perspective. That was the hook. That was what made us different. And I was younger than any other host, before, and it just worked. It just clicked. So as we went on through the years, I mean, you're sure there's pressure to kind of keep your ratings what they are, and you see all this competition come and go. But I think we really stayed true to what the show was. Yes, we eventually had Britney Spears on with Baby One More Time when it first came out, and NSYNC and Backstreet Boys and Usher, and you name it. They all came on our show because we had that audience. But it wasn't celebrity driven. And that's something that, like, I don't think Rosie is so good at that. She's so good at like making it seem totally authentic. This person coming on to plug their movie or something. I'm not, I just wanted to talk, like, gossip about people's relationships. That was like what I loved. I still love it. I'm fascinated by what people will do to each other and to themselves on television.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I have very vivid memories of my brother watching me, and we had a little shelf that in our kitchen that led to the living room, and we would have Ricki on and your show on. And I just have these very vivid memories of watching it. Is there ever a topic where you see something now on social media, or you just think of something and you're like, oh, that would have made a great episode if we were doing the show today?
Not really.
Yeah.
I don't really, I mean, until I was doing this podcast project, I really didn't reflect on it. I feel like I lived it. It was such a chunk of my life, and so much happened to me personally during the time. I found love. I got married for the first time. I had my 2 kids. And then the last season of the show, I filed for divorce. So it's like literally this personal life that kind of went up and down and up and down. And so I never really stopped to kind of think, first of all, like, what an impact, a positive impact the show had. I mean, it really, and it's now through the lens of who I am now and how old I am and the life experience I've had, that it really was for people that were marginalized and did not feel represented. Gay people in middle America, they day in and day out didn't see people like them. And so it was a real source of everything for a young person like that growing up, seeing people treated equally, no matter who they love, that's something that looking back on, I didn't think of it as groundbreaking at the time, but
it was,
yeah, it wasn't something that I really, really stopped and thought about. But, my days with John Waters, my start doing Hairspray and being around all different types of people and everyone being treated with love and respect, it made it easy to do that on my own talk show.
I have so many things I want to ask you, Ricki. Okay. So you mentioned John Waters. What is one thing that you took from him? I'm sure there were so many lessons. Obviously you played Tracy in his Hairspray, but is there one thing that sort of sticks with you in your everyday life, or something you think about all the time?
Yes. Okay. Yes. I mean, there's something that I talked about it because I just had him on my podcast. We just taped it last week, and it was really fun for me because, again, like I haven't really reflected and did a timeline and talked about it with him, but there's something very specific that he didn't actually remember, but I remember it vividly, which is a very big deal because I don't remember a lot. I took Ambien a lot back in the day and I have selective memory loss. But in this instance, so Hairspray, we finished taping. It was the summer of 1987. I was 18 years old. And I remember him sitting me down and he said, I want to give you some advice. He said, I want you to remember these three things. Because he said, your life is about to change, And he said, always stay humble, always stay true to yourself. And if you're going to read and believe the good things people write about you, you're going to have to read and believe the bad. So, but I'm telling you, like, I have been in this business for 35 years now. I've stayed, for anyone that's known me, Liza Persky and all of them.
Yeah, we were talking about Liza before we recorded, a mutual friend who we love.
Yeah, mutual dear friend. But I'm very much exactly who I was back then. A lot of great things have happened to me. A lot of traumatic things have happened. And yet I've managed to keep my feet on the ground. And I really credit John Waters for instilling that in me. And, I'm so grateful that he was my entree to this crazy fucking business,
Okay. So you get the talk show at, I believe you were 24, correct?
I was 23.
23. I can't even imagine 23 getting a show like that. How did you get the show and what was that like?
I mean, it like nothing in my career, with the exception of my documentary work, is calculated on my part. It's literally the job that's placed in my lap. I mean, I have to win the part and I have to do a good job, but basically every opportunity came my way kind of just happenstance, And so with the talk show, I'd done Hairspray, and I've always my friends will say that I don't have the doubt gene. I don't ever doubt myself. I don't know doubt. And there's something to be like, it's kind of true because if someone gives me the opportunity, if John Waters thinks I'm Tracy Turnblad, yeah, I'm Tracy Turnblad, And with the talk show, they think I love talk shows. I loved Oprah and Sally and Phil Donahue. I was like, they think I could do it? Okay, sure, I'll try, I'll do it. And so it's just like, there's almost like a naivete. I'm so green, but I'm so like open and up for the experience. And I have no doubt. So it just works. Yeah. But I mean, looking back on it, I mean, it's presumptuous that I was in that role of moderating a panel and giving advice. I mean, I had no sense of who I was, and it's hilarious.
It's incredible. So
wild.
The talk show, the first run of it ended in 2004. And take me through your decision, because you did finish out your contract, but take me through the decision to step away from the talk show. What made you? I know you just mentioned 9/11. We just had the anniversary, and I'm so fascinated by what it must have been like to be on air immediately following that. So can you talk to me a little bit about that period?
Yeah. So my talk show ended. Let me first. 9/11 was it was traumatizing for everyone. But, for me, I was a new mom. I had a newborn and a 4-year-old, and I witnessed it. I lived in the West Village. So I lived downtown, and I saw the second plane firsthand, saw the buildings collapse on the roof of my building with my 4-year-old next to me. I mean, and it was that moment of just this fight or flight, feeling like I was going to die, that literally thinking that was it, and I sort of made this kind of pact or this epiphany that I was just going to make some changes in my life. And it wasn't like it's not like I had the power to cancel my show. I finished my contract, and I think both sides agreed that it had run its course, even though we went off the air with higher ratings than Ellen launched with, like we were still doing well, but it was time. I wanted to move out to LA. I wanted to I just never felt safe. And I love New York. I'm in New York right now. I'm a born and raised New Yorker, but like there's something shifted for me that day. And I just didn't feel safe anymore in that same way. And so, I'm all about reinventing. Like I love my show. Don't get me wrong. It was 11 years. It was so good to me. And I'm so happy I get to kind of go back with this new podcast, but I like doing new things. I like, whether it's doing Dancing with the Stars or becoming a serious documentary filmmaker, it's not that I have really anything to prove, but I after 9/11, I looked at my show in a different way. It felt, even though I think we did a lot of good work, I think it felt like a lot of nonsense, a lot of people screaming at each other and, DNA, not the DNA test is not a big deal, but like it was just like exploitative. I kind of changed, I think. And I wanted to do work that I felt was even more positively impactful. And that's why I went on to make my documentary about birth. I felt like I wanted my life to be even more meaningful to me. And your
documentaries are so brilliant. And if anyone hasn't checked them out, I encourage them to do so. But I wonder, I don't know if this question makes sense, but did your talk show work inform any of the documentary process? Like, I don't know. Did you carry
I'll tell you, I don't mean to cut you off.
No,
I think I had the talk show in order to be able to make these documentaries, because I think having the foundation of that mainstream audience that roots for me, that trusts me, that relates to me, like I feel like having that base, I was able to make a pretty provocative film and have it be easily fed to the mainstream audience. And so that's what I think the power in that, because I was I was certainly not the typical advocate for home births. Like I'm so not that person, but I think I was curious about it. I mean, it's the same thing like doing on my talk show, talking about relationships, all things like, why did they do that? Or why did that happen? Same thing with birth. I got really interested in the birth world and why things are being done in the hospital setting. And I wanted to explore that. And so, and the movie, making that movie after 9/11, working on for 3.5 years, all my own money, it was like a calling. Like I didn't even know it would have an impact. Like I didn't think about the impact. I needed to put this out in the world. And now, it's almost 15 years. Next year is 15 years since the movie came out. And we're going to do a re-release. We're going to actually, Abby and I are going to do an updated version because it's still relevant today. All the statistics, 1 in 3 has a C-section. I mean, it's still, the maternal mortality rate, especially among women of color, is just disgusting. So yeah, we have more we want to do with that film, but that to me is the pinnacle of my work, even though the Ricki Lake show is the one who that everyone knows me from. And I'm so proud of it, but the personal documentaries that I work on for years and don't get paid. And it's about something bigger,
They're so good. I mean, yeah. In terms of the topics of your talk show, is there one you're most maybe embarrassed by? You mentioned exploitive. Was there one that you wish you could take back? And then also conversely, is there one that you look back on that sticks out in your mind as one you're most proud of? I'm sure there's so many episodes you did. It's so really hard to keep track of all of them.
It's so hard to remember, I'm sure there were cringy moments. I'm sure, I do remember one, we did a DNA show, and this was like before the DNA shows were every day on whatever, Maury and stuff. Yeah. We were doing that. And I remember we had a girl on, and a young woman, and she had 3 men come on that she was sure one of them was the father, and none of them were the father. The embarrassment for this woman, and that all the guys high-fiving each. That is, it was great television, but do I feel that's one that sticks out that I remember that I got how that woman must have felt, So, that's an experience. I shudder to think what happened to her when she went home. But, we had that guy, Reverend Fred Phelps on, he was absolutely disgusting. And I ended up kicking him off the stage because he was saying these crazy things. And it was a moment we talk about it on the podcast because
he was the homophobic guy, right? Yeah.
He's the reverend that would picket at AIDS victims' funerals.
Ugh.
And like, I mean, he was like vile. And I was like, why are we giving this guy a platform? You know, and they're like, well, it's better to be able to see these people rather than not, you know, to know. Anyway, I was, you know, at that time, I was the first season of my show. I was 25. And so I had never been disrespected on my show before. And I can't remember exactly what he was saying, but he said all these crazy things. And I just was like, you may be irreverent, but this is still my show. Get off, you know. It was a moment for me. But, you know, I have such great, like, fond memories of every show. It was always a party. It was always like unexpected stuff happening. It was always like a feel good, like Stuart Krasnow, who was a producer on my show, and we talked to him on the podcast. He said, you know, it wasn't like a gotcha. It was more like, oh, you know, it's like the tone was different than some of the other shows.
Right. What do you think after all those years makes a good talk show host? Like,
say that again.
What do you think after all those years makes a good talk show host? I mean, you must have learned.
For someone. Yeah. I mean, being a good listener. I mean, that's like, you know, I don't watch a lot of talk these days. There's not a show, although I just did Sherry Shepherd. She is adorable. She's like made
so
for it.
Yeah.
She's funny. She's got a great sense of humor about herself. She's super like relatable, like a girl next door. I love her. I think she's going to be great. Being a good listener and being like true to yourself and being authentic and being quick. I mean, being very quick on your feet. And I did not. One of the things I'm really proud of, and I don't know if you know this, I think you might know this. I never wore an IFB.
I did not know this, but wait, I'm sure they yelled at you about wearing the IFB.
They did. Oh,
okay,
yeah.
So how did you get around that?
All the time. I did, because it didn't help me. It actually took me out of the moment I was in. Gail Steinberg, my genius EP that was on the sides with me, and Garth Anselier, the creator and mastermind of the whole thing, you know, they wanted to be like connected to me in the control room. And I couldn't stand it. So I refused to wear one, which it's a big deal because there's a lot that you have to do that the control room would like to be able to control. And yeah, I didn't want that. So I had Gail on the sides with cue cards. If there's some point that I'm missing or I need to go to break suddenly, but for the most part, like I had this ability. I mean, it's almost like an idiot savant because I could time a segment in my head. I'd know exactly what was a 7.5 minute segment. And I'd get the story, the first side of the story, then the second, then hold and the whole thing is like a little bit of like a formula, but like I was able to really, do it in my head,
Yeah. For those who don't know, an IFB is a mic that's in your ear or an earpiece that you have connection to the control room. I was watching the Emmys yesterday, and last year I did the after show for the Emmys, and there was someone in my ear, and it was one of the first times really working with the IFB. And I just remember it was so distracting because you'll be in the middle of a sentence and somebody's saying, you have to we have a tweet on screen, go to the tweet or something. And it's like, you're still trying to get out one sentence. And
it just pulled me out of it. Yeah, exactly. So thank you for explaining an IFB. I assumed everyone knew.
Of course. Okay. So was there any competition back in the day? I mean, there were all these talk shows in the 90s that, I mean, I felt like I was watching all of them, but what was the competition like? I'm
trying to think. So like the first year, there was like 3 different shows that launched with us. There was one named Les Brown, and there was another woman, an African-American woman. And then, after we came out, it's like everyone tried to get it. So it was Tempest Bledsoe. I mean, there were hundreds. I mean, I think there was like well over 100 people that tried to host the show, got a deal for a few weeks or made a pilot. And yeah, I mean, there was Queen Latifah was on for a few seasons. Rosie was a different show and she was a success in her own right. But like, I'm trying to think, I mean, you could probably punch up the list.
There's so many.
I haven't. There's so many. Carney Wilson and yeah.
But are producers coming at the end of each show being like, we have to do this, we got to beat these people, we got to do this? Or is it, you staying out of that?
I don't think, we would look at the ratings. We definitely look, and Gail like had this system of tracking like what type of show rated, and she'd schedule this one for Thursday and this one. I mean, she was a genius when it came to programming. But I don't remember feeling pressure because we were the original show doing something new and different. And it felt more like fun.
I'm sure you've been asked this a million times, but do you think your show could exist these days? Like, do you think the show as it was?
No, I don't. Do you think so?
No, I mean, I feel like with everything, especially with social media, you mentioned platforming and giving someone a platform. And I feel like that's the argument now that I hear a lot is like, should you interview someone? Even people who have talk shows, when they have on a controversial guest, a lot of people, if you hop on social media, will say, how dare you have them on? This is a controversial person. Why are we giving them a platform? Or this is a person who said or did this. And I think that's a hard line to toe and also dangerous in so many ways because it is. I don't know. I don't know where I stand on it, to be honest with you, because I don't know if you should, if there's someone who is doing something really horrific in terms of politics or something like that, I don't know if you should not give them a platform or if you should talk to them publicly so that people can see and maybe change their mind about things.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm just glad I'm not doing a talk show now. Like, I really feel like, especially it was a different time. It was like, we didn't have thousands of channels to check out, there was like really like a concentrated audience that it was like the must-see thing for young people. And it was a time when you couldn't have feedback instantaneously like you can now. I mean, that's really, and you can't like sort of get in trouble the way you can now. Like the slightest thing offends someone. I was saying being canceled is like a thing, now. And I also have a theory, like with my old show, like and Andy Cohen, who's a good friend of mine, I think has it too. Both of us, and I'm going to say this to him when I talk to him on my show, have this ability, I think, to basically get away with asking almost anything.
Oh, yeah. 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 Totally.
And that is like a gift, I think, that, because I don't know what it is. I mean, I don't know if you have some idea, but like, I think because I think you're not a bad person. I think when the audience can sense that you are a genuinely good human being, I think you can get away with a lot more because they know that you're not coming from a place of being an evil human being. Whereas I think if there's even a tinge of some sort of maleficence, is that a word? That's a word, right? It's character for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying. No, you're right. Andy, I watch him and it's like, it's masterful because he's getting such great response or content, but it's from such a cheeky, likable, it's just, I don't know. He's very masterful. I saw him with Hillary Clinton and her daughter. It was amazing. Mm-hmm. It was like top notch interviewing, in my opinion.
One of the weird things now about talk shows, and I talked to Bonnie Hunt, who had a daytime show for a little while, and she was saying that the thing with her show, which was, I think, maybe probably 5 or 10 years ago now, but they always wanted a viral moment. And so now everything is like, we need a viral moment. We need we need you to do this. And it's a hard line to toe because not every episode of a talk show should be something where you could get a 30-second soundbite that's going to be all over Instagram or TikTok.
Yeah. I mean, our thing back then was like sweeps, we do the most sort of salacious or the most topical, like, that you put your strongest shows, which are mostly the ones with all the emotion during sweeps, for those ratings. Yeah.
I know you did a new version of the talk show in 2012. And would you ever bring back another version, another iteration of the Ricki Lake show? You're done.
I think I'm done. I think I'm done. I mean, whether I would like guest host for some existing show or whatever. I mean, I haven't really done that, but I maybe would. I lived it. I want to do something else. I want to do something.
Okay, wait.
This podcast.
What else? I want to know what else.
I don't know. There's nothing. This podcast is totally filling my like dance calendar, and I really like my life. Like, I have a balance. I love my lady of leisure time with my new husband in our house. I do like doing projects that are going to like get me up in the morning and inspire me and keep me on my toes, but I'm not looking to like stay relevant to, for the sake of I'm not. I love the balance that I have. The level of fame I have is like ideal. I go everywhere. I'm a totally normal person, and people really love my work, whether it's my documentaries there, or my days with John Waters or the talk show. I just like, I love what I've gotten to do. And, I feel like there's more in the pike, like there's more to come. I don't know what that looks like. Maybe, Abby and I, my directing partner, we're talking about next steps, but it's very, very hard to do these documentaries.
I need another documentary. I need you to act in something. I want to see you acting again because I love your acting work. And
thank you. Maybe.
Maybe. What is it about Hairspray that you think keeps on keeping on? I mean, that story just keeps being rebooted and people are so attracted to it. I love it. We just had Nikki Blonsky on the show and she was talking about Tracy.
She's great. She's amazing. I love her. I love Marissa. I love Maddie Ballio. I mean, all of them. And there's all like Katie Garrity. There's all these other ones that I've met in London and wherever. It's almost like the perfect musical and message. And it just, unfortunately, the messaging is as, relevant today as it was back then. It's like almost like we've gone full circle. And I just think, seeing a young woman that isn't the typical ingenue kind of winning the prize and getting the guy. I mean, that's just like universal for any underdog, anyone that felt like an outsider or misfit growing up, they get to look to this character. And I think, in our original film, it was believable that Tracy got the guy and won everyone's hearts. She was, just such a great person. And I think the message still holds up. And John Waters, he's just an international treasure. I mean, the talk about staying true to yourself, look at his career. Pink Flamingos is having his 50th anniversary next year. And my friend Tess Holiday, you must know Tess. She invited me to go. They're doing a big thing at the Madonna Inn and the Madonna Inn in San Luis Obispo. Yeah, they're doing a big, huge event, 2-day event. We may go, but John Waters is just such a unique and talented, brilliant guy and mentor. And I just think Hairspray is just magical. Divine,
you said unique, and it's like I crave uniqueness now, especially in film, because I feel like there's so much that is the same we're seeing over and over again. And so John Waters just always had such a unique voice that I crave that. Crave it.
He's the best, and he's a writer, he's a fine artist. He does it all, and he's constantly working. And my introduction, is to be his muse for those films, is amazing. Like the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah. I know you have so much amazing work ahead of you, but at the end, when people look back on your career, what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want people to look back on and say about you and about your work?
That I lived, I have lived, and I've had this like really extraordinary career. I've gotten to do it all. And I'm really happy. Like, I'm really through it all. I'm super grateful for every opportunity, every pitfall, every failed marriage, all of it. I'm someone, I think I'm continuing to get better with age. Like, I do think I'm the best me I've ever been. And, but mostly that I fucking lived it up. I did it all.
Ricki, what a delight to get to talk to you. I mean, I look up to you and your work, and I was raised by Ricki, which is the name of your podcast. You host it with Kalen Allen, which is so interesting because he's a young guy and he was born in 1993 or something. And I'm like, I know. He's amazing. He's wonderful. And I love hearing his perspective.
Oh, Liza Persky loved him too. She said she discovered him. Yeah. He's amazing. And I think, the idea is to have someone that didn't grow up with the show, to look at the from the lens of him, and hopefully bring people in that didn't grow up with the show.
Right. Ricki, the last two things I ask every one of my guests, and sorry if you don't have an answer prepared, but what is your favorite Mariah Carey song? And also, if you were choosing for People Magazine's Sexiest Man Alive, who would you choose?
Oh, well, the second one, of course, I'm going to choose my husband. He is the sexiest guy I know.
Is that him behind you?
That is CJ, but Ross is over there. Ross, will you come say hi? You're adorable, by the way, Danny.
Oh,
I want to be friends with you.
Let's do it.
Any friend of Liza's is a friend of mine. This is Ross.
Hi, Ross.
Don't you agree? He's the sexiest man you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Him, and my favorite, hands down, Mariah Carey song, Always Be My Baby.
Classic.
But you know what? Can I tell you? I have a little connection to Mariah Carey. So Mariah Carey used to sing with Brenda K. Starr.
Backup.
And, I believe, she was her backup singer. She was Brenda's backup singer. And I used to sing with Brenda K. Starr when I was 15 to 17 years of age in this show called The Early Show, which was at Don't Tell Mamas here in New York City. So I got pretty tight with Brenda. Haven't seen her in forever, but yeah.
And then Mariah redid I Still Believe, which was one of Brenda's original songs.
Yep. Exactly. You and I were like in the know.
Well, let's next time in New York, we'll get lunch or dinner with Liza and Jamie.
I would love that.
We'll get together.
Or when Liza comes out to LA, because you'll come over to Malibu.
We're hoping, we're trying to get a talk show off the ground right now. So hopefully.
I wish you the best, and I'm happy that if you need me to come on, I'm happy to.
God, I love you so much. This was truly a dream come true, Ricki. Thank you. I love you so much. Everyone's going to listen to Raised by Ricki. You're the best. Emmy winner. We do so much. Love you, Ricki. Thank you.
Love you. Bye.